guys. Welcome to True Vine Talks with Rachel and Linda. Rachel has this awesome idea to do the Hold Me Tight book for our podcast, and we're going through all the conversations in relationships that we have and what creates some negative cycles. And today's is really good because a lot of times you can be in conversation with the person that matters the most, and they can trigger you. And this is called conversation two, finding the raw spots. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I've written some notes, because I like to be organized, and I'm a little goofy today, so y'all have to just bear with me. What is a raw spot? Oh, in relationships, Miss Rachel.
So a raw spot, when I'm describing this to clients, I describe it as a type of like emotional wound, right? This raw spot that we have, it's hypersensitive and it's formed from past experiences when our attachment needs, right? We all have these basic attachment needs for love, acceptance, belonging. When those needs in the past have gone ignored or dismissed in some way, and we have experienced emotional abandonment, it creates a raw spot or an attachment injury.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very well stated. It's, when you're having an interaction with someone you love, and, if, I'm always like, hey, Charlie, fix your face. And he's like, what? Fix your face? I'm like, fix your face. What? I'm like, okay, so for me, a raw spot is a guy looking angry, because my dad was a very angry man. Okay, he's gotten some help since then, but he was very angry. And when I'd see that cue, I would just like go into fight mode, or I'd run away because I didn't know what to do. So my dad, of course, was one of my attachment figures. So when my husband, Charlie, has a look on his face, I'm like, fix your face. Because even if he's not angry, that look is a raw spot for me. So I have to be cautious, or I've got to fight, or I got to run. I don't know what to do. So the body keeps score. That's another book we talked about. You don't forget.
Right.
You just don't forget, Rachel. Those people that raised you, and they did their very best, and they did. If they were uncertain about their own attachment with you, you felt uncertain about your attachment with them. And that plays into your adult relationships. So those raw spots are different for everybody.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We all have different experiences. Yeah, so they could have been formed in childhood with a primary caregiver. They could be formed from past relationships, like if you've experienced someone cheated on you, or some form of emotional abuse in a relationship, anything like that, that can create a raw spot.
Yeah, definitely. If you had a previous relationship, and when that person would go quiet, it means they're getting ready to break something. If you were in a traumatic relationship.
Yeah.
So if your current spouse, partner goes quiet, it makes you reactive.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's those moments that we call that attachment cue.
Yes.
Right? What you're talking about, the look on someone's face, right? It could be a sigh. That could be a cue. Your body thinks something's wrong. No. Body language, a tone of voice. Someone raises their voice and you perceive it as yelling.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. And how you know like, I don't know if that's my next question, but yeah, well, there it goes. Yeah, it is. How do you know that you're being triggered? How do you know that you're you're being hurt and you don't even know why you're being hurt? How does a person figure that out in
Yeah.
their relationship?
Yeah. Well, you'll begin to notice this sort of cycle. We talk about cycles a lot, but
Yeah.
the first kind of thing is the bodily sensation, this physiological response to the cue, right? Someone makes a facial expression, they look upset, my stomach drops, I feel nauseous, my chest gets tight, I might feel a tingling, warm, burning sensation, right? You feel it in your body, a change really quick,
Yes,
happens fast.
you're right. And Rachel mentioned that earlier today, that it's like in a nanosecond. So that's why when you come to therapy with us, so, okay, let's slow it down. What's happening? Tell me more. Help us to know what you're feeling. Where do you feel that? Give us an image. We want you to slow down your body. People are like, oh, that's silly. That sounds stupid. Mm, we go so fast that we don't know what's really happening till we slow down and go, oh, when you make that face, I get a pit in my stomach and my body says run or fight. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think it helps people to slow it down because I'll get a lot of people to say, I think I'm going crazy, right? Or they're
Yeah.
going crazy. They need to work on, they need to figure this out. But,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because it happens so fast.
Mm-hmm.
And then after it's all done and they've had this huge emotional outburst or reaction, they go, that that's weird. You know, what just happened didn't, the logic kicks in, prefrontal cortex comes back on board, problem solving, good decisions, and they go, what actually just happened didn't necessarily warrant my response. What in the world was that?
Yeah. Yeah. That's good, Rachel. Good. Because you start yelling and screaming and cussing and cutting to the core. And like you said, that cussing, rip raring, yelling, well, it's totally out of proportion to that face he just made. Or, like, well,
Yeah,
what? And they're sitting there going, they're blindsided. What do I do? What do I do? I was just thinking about my lunch. You know,
yeah,
it, your perception was that they were mad at you or they're angry, and so you get triggered, and it, like you said, it's disproportionate to what's really happening, and before you know it, you're fighting. You're in a big fight. You start yelling, cussing, and then they're blindsided, so they go quiet, or vice versa, and then you're back in the demon dialogues. Conversation one.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we're using the emotionally focused therapy model, we're helping people go to a deeper level and
Mm-hmm.
figure out what this raw spot's really about. We're not staying on the surface. We're not going to be like, all right, that facial expression that you made is really upset, or what was that about? What were you thinking? We're going to go instead, what happens for you when you
Mm.
see that face? What does that remind you of? Where do you go emotionally? You might say, well, I start thinking that I did something wrong, that I've upset this person that I care about, that I need to fix this, that somehow I'm feeling just not good enough.
Not good enough.
Yeah.
Ooh, That's that softer, more primary emotion, right? Or is that the secondary? I always get those two flip flop. Anyways, it's those
Vulnerable emotions.
vulnerable emotions. I always
That's what I like to call it.
primary and secondary throw me off. But yeah, those softer emotions, it's like, oh my gosh, he's giving me that look again. So I must not be good enough. I must be, I've done something wrong and I don't know what it is. I can't ever get it right for this guy. And that takes you into sad. And that takes you into withdrawal. Initially you might fight, but eventually you go into withdrawal.
Yeah. Yeah, those deeper core emotions are usually, once the raw spot's been rubbed, we get to either sadness, shame, or fear.
Yes.
Right? I'm feeling emotionally deprived or deserted. I'm feeling alone, feeling not good enough, or I'm afraid that I'm going to lose you.
Yeah.
And those deeper emotions are not good to feel. Nobody wants to feel those. So that pushes us into anger.
Yes.
And when we're angry, we either attack or withdraw.
Very well stated. Yeah. Very well stated. Yeah. So when I'm angry, I'm going to fight or I'm going to flee. I've got to choose one direction. That action tendency is I got to do something. I got to protect me. And if fighting you is going to protect me, I'm going to fight you. But if running away from you is going to protect me, I'm going to do that. Because I can't do it. I can't, it hurts too much, If every time you're around that person, you get queued up, is that the right word? Triggered. We like that word, triggered. You're going to have to figure out what it is that's making you feel this way. And am I feeling not good enough? And that's when we do that whole enactment in the couples model is you share that. Oh my gosh, when I see you look at me that way, I get so scared that you're angry and I don't know what to do. And so I just push you away. That's why I get verbally mean. Yeah. So raw spots trigger that negative cycle, the loop-de-loo, loop-de-loo, as we call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
all of our closest bonds, we have attachment longings and attachment fears. Right? And these raw spots that we're talking about are very much the attachment fears coming up. Right? So learning how to soothe those by building the capacity to meet our longings, have those needs met, is where we're headed.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I check your face and it looks angry, I need to say, hey, you look mad. What's going on? Check in with that person. What's happening? Are you mad at me? Yeah, help me know. Oh no, I'm not mad. I was just thinking about dinner. Or I was thinking about my garage door. Oh, it looked like you were mad. So sometimes checking in to see if they really were trying to trigger your raw spot helps.
Yeah.
So I teach my couples, did you check in to make sure that's not what he meant? Yeah, once we've gotten more into the, in-depth stage 2 good stuff where they de-escalated, I like to get them to check in. Oh, did you really mean it that way? When you said that in that tone, were you being malicious about that, or were you being funny? What were you trying to communicate?
Yeah.
Because don't we get it wrong a lot? Like when we're checking
in. So often miscommunication. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the phrase that I learned from you, Linda, is how did that land on you? Right? Because just because we, our delivery isn't always perceived the way we intend it to be.
Yeah, exactly. And I learned that from the EFT, those guys. They taught me that in the trainings I was in. Um, so I think in her book she talks about Darwin, with that animal. Can't remember the name of the animal, but I was thinking about when I went to the aquarium and there's a shark in the aquarium, and he's swimming, but there's a whole plexiglass, strong glass, but my body automatically, when it comes near, I flinch. Well, can the
Yep.
shark crack that window?
Nope, probably not.
We hope not.
We hope not.
But it still sends me into fight or flight. So even if your spouse isn't Jaws, dun dun, still feels like that when they look at you a certain way. Dun dun, the Jaws theme
Yep.
song.
Yeah.
Dun dun. You're like in the water and it's coming. So you feel that, yes, you're looking and you're looking for safety. Is this safe? And so you automatically go into fight or flight if you're having a Jaws moment, with your significant other.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. When our environmental information, right, we take it in, we see it with our eyes, it goes to the limbic system. There's kind of like a little yield sign there. We're like, oh, hold up, is this danger or safe? Oh, that kind of reminds me of this one bad time. That's danger. We're gonna send it this way. Yeah, it's exactly what you're talking about with the shark coming at you, right?
Yeah.
There's a part of you that knows this is fine. I'm safe.
Yeah.
But the limbic system says otherwise. It says there's a chance this is dangerous, so we're gonna protect ourselves.
Yeah. And so it's just natural for us to pick up on those cues, especially if you've had trauma in your childhood. You will have more raw spots than someone who has not had trauma. So, be mindful of that too. And especially trauma with the primary caregivers, that matters. So you definitely need to work through some of that stuff to get to a better place with your partner. And when I say work through that stuff, that means seeking and pursuing counseling to process those triggers, and it's taking care of unfinished business, using the empty chair technique, some of the things I've covered in previous podcasts. So
yeah. So our next question I'm seeing behind you is, how do we make meaning out of our raw spot? And so what that looks like in session is when we get to that core emotion that sends you into anger, feeling not good enough, feeling afraid of losing this person, right? We talk about, when have you experienced that before? What was it like?
Mm-hmm.
What messages have you received throughout your life that have led you to believe that you're not good enough?
It's good. That's good, Rachel. And when they say, "Oh my gosh, my dad was just so distant," and when he would make that look, I would just feel like I was useless or I wasn't worthy of his love. Something about me disgusting him, and that would put me into that place. Oh my gosh. So, you might want to say, if someone would share that to you, what would that be like to tell your dad that? Oh, I don't know if I could. Oh man, it's too scary, isn't it? Is that the emotion? You feel scared? Yeah. So you want to process that stuff. And that can come up in couples.
Comes up a lot, yeah.
And that's okay, because guess what? The other person's hearing that pain and they're like, wow, I didn't know they had unfinished business with their mom or dad. Yikes. And when I do that, that puts them back there.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's really beneficial in couples because we're working on a closer, more secure bond, to have that person beside of them that they love and care about, and to be able to reach over and hold their hand or have an arm around them while they process this hard stuff. It's like, hey, I'm going back in time to deal with this unfinished business, but I don't have to do it alone. I have this person who's really supportive of me to lean on while I work on this. And that's really special.
Yeah, it brings water to my eyes thinking about it.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes me teary eyed because as you were sharing that, Rachel, I was thinking of couples where the person did reach over and comforted them, rubbed their back when they were sharing something that was hard. So we love emotionally focused therapy. Yeah, it's a beautiful model and it helps so much. I I would recommend it for everyone, everyone. And yeah, so once we've made meaning of the raw spot, we want to find out what is that negative attachment cue. So you're tracking your steps. You know how like if you would be out in the snow and you got lost, you could track the snow, your shoes, and go back to where tracked yourself, if you needed to. Or someone was looking for you, they could find your tracks in the snow. You're actually going backwards and looking at your tracks. You like that
Yep.
analogy? You're smiling.
That's how I describe it to people. That's why I'm smiling. Like, yep. I describe it as, okay, we're working backwards. Yeah.
See, Rachel and I think the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I just love Rachel. So,
Oh.
so if we go backwards and we look, oh my gosh, this is where I was at in my tracks. And that was the cue when you looked at me like that, took me back to that place where I saw my dad get mad. He would, he would give that look at first, and then that triggered me. It's like, oh, okay, so that's what sent us over the edge.
Yeah.
That's the cue, right? That's the place. So, like when you say working backwards, is that kind of how you do that, Rachel?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Because usually when people come in, they're really focused on the anger. Right. I'm so angry
Yeah.
all the time. Anger. And so I'm like, okay, well, like I said earlier, when we're angry, we either do one of two things. We attack or withdraw. Which one do you usually do? And they'll tell me, okay, then we'll go to what's fueling that anger? What's really underneath of it? Right? Well, I'm angry because I feel sad. I feel like I'm losing my partner. There's this distance that's growing between us. I don't feel close. I feel unlovable. Like I don't belong in this relationship anymore. Good, okay. Where does that come from? When was the first time you felt that way? Right? Well, I felt that way, with my dad or whoever in a past relationship. Yeah. What kind of things usually happen that bring those memories up? Well, like when he looks at me a certain way, or when I feel out of control, I have no control over the situation. Yeah, working backwards helps a lot.
Very good. Yeah. And, there are some people that are only in the here and now with therapy. We are in the here and now. And our body keeps score and we remember those times that we were feeling neglected or hurt by someone we cared about. And it's still happening in the present because we bring that memory to the forefront in our interactions, even just outside of your partner. Sometimes you could be at the store and someone could look at you funny and you could be triggered. You know, what's their problem? You know,
Yeah.
what did that look for? And you're like, man, that really made me mad. And I walk away in a bad mood and not know, oh, okay. Pretty amazing stuff. So even though you're in the present process with your, what you're feeling and experiencing, there are also, like what Rachel's saying, working backwards, you find out, oh, for me, that look is a trigger. For you, that tone is a trigger. For you, that noise is a trigger. It's just to that raw spot that sends you over the edge. Yeah. Good stuff.
So we're peeling back the layers, getting to the core, the root.
Yes. The root cause of what makes you feel hurt, and then to attack or run from your partner. Yeah.
So once we've gone through our, we've had the attachment cue, the bodily sensation, the emotional experience, which pushes us into anger, and then we either attack or withdraw. When we get to attack or withdraw, we're in our demon dialogue that we talked about last week. And that's when that negative cycle starts with our partner.
Yeah.
And that's when the problems arise, right? So what we teach couples is, how to break down what's happening and actually share it with one another, right? Which is kind of what we've been talking about, but not exactly directly. That would look like, when you do fill in the blank, I experience this in my body, and I feel this emotionally. It makes me really angry, and that's why I act out by, yelling at you, criticizing you, or shutting down and pulling away, going on a drive, whatever.
Yes. And I'll read it from the whole time. I did highlight her part, what you're just sharing.
Right.
In this situation, the incident, or what we call the conflict, the trigger for my raw feeling was the look on the face. On the surface, I probably showed anger, right? But deep down, I just felt abandoned and alone, right? Or sad, which they like you to get to those more negative emotions, which is usually sad. What I longed for was you to hold me tight and let me know you're there, right? The main message that I got about you and me is, I don't matter to you.
Yeah.
And I filled in the blanks like they had on experience. So, I love for people to utilize this and work through that stuff while doing couples. It's so helpful to have that to go along with what you're doing in therapy. Yeah.
And those last two sentences that you read were the attachment-based longings and fears, right? I long for you to hold me, tell me that we're going to be okay, that you do care about me, whatever. And what I perceived about our relationship, that's the fears part, right? That I don't matter to you.
Yeah. Fear drives the cycle. I fear you don't care. So I'm just going to fight or run.
And it's very natural to have fears in relationships. It would hurt so bad if that person just decided to not care anymore and leave.
Yeah. So yeah, this conversation too is an important part. And even if we're doing individual therapy with our clients, there are there's always someone in their life that matters the most that can send them into this, negative cycle within, you know, and working through that and sorting through that's important. And, if you have raw spots and you're in need of, sharing that with someone and you need a safe place to go, certainly Rachel and I would love to be that listening ear and help you work backwards and find out where did this stuff start, and then protest it and process it and help repair, whatever it was that needed repaired. Yeah, that's what we do in a Rachel.
Yeah. I find it extremely helpful in individual too, especially with people seeking anger management. We can work back. What happens for you when you get angry, right? It's the same thing, but just for everyday life. We're finding that root emotional, you know, belief that's wrong, but we believe it, right? That I'm not good enough.
Mm-hmm. And what I like about EFT, it's not attached to cognitive. It's not cognitive that drives it. It's emotional attachment needs, longings, and fears. It's those unmet needs, longings, and fears that drive me to behave this way, not my thoughts. So I like the model. So good.
Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense, right? My attachment style impacts the way that I view myself and the way that I perceive others view me, right? So it does drive my thoughts, feelings, and behaviors.
Very well stated, Rachel. How you think others see you does drive your behavior a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So making sense of those things and creating a narrative about your life story and repairing those injuries, it's an amazing process to work through. And Rachel's an amazing counselor and does great work. And, if you need a counselor, she would be awesome to have. So, let
Thanks,
us
Lynn.
know. You're welcome. So let us know and give us a call if you feel like you could use someone to be there for you and process these raw spots in your life. So thanks for joining us today.
Yeah. Conversation 3 next week. Stay
Y'all.
tuned.
Bye.
Bye.